Hi everyone, welcome to this week's TCE Talks video. In this episode, I'm going to be trying to discuss my take on the Superchops material. That is the book and video that Jerry Callett brought out in 1987. I think it's quite a big topic because really it represents a lot of the fundamental teachings that are present in the Khaled system, and in many ways, so a lot of it had changed once we moved towards this anchored tongue between the teeth. Those are my words, not his. But a lot of it stayed the same. Maybe the most confusing thing is what's said about use of air, and we'll probably, I'll talk about that a little bit later on. But even in planning this video out, in trying to decide what were the most important topics to cover, I found I was looking at the book and I realized that it's actually been quite a long time since I've read this book. I used to have quite an encyclopedic knowledge of, where certain sentences were in different books, and I had a list of links to all the various things being discussed by people who were there at the time. Because I'm very open about the fact that when I talk about this Superchops stuff, I'm talking about what's written down, what's on the video, and what is discussed in old forum posts online. Maybe that's a good place to start. So a lot of my learning of the ways of the Khaled students in the past came from reading through posts on the Trumpet Herald forum. Now, as it stands at the moment, these posts go back to sometime around 2001, I believe, maybe later, 2002. And for the most part, they are discussing TCE and what came afterwards. So, I mean, we're still talking about, at this point, a good 20 years of conversations. Now, maybe not a good 20 years, maybe a good 12 or 14 years, and then it starts to get very quiet on there. I think that once the social media, and specifically Facebook, kind of took over as the easiest way for people to go online and discuss niche topics, the Jerome Callett section of the Superchops, Jerome Callett Superchops section of the Trumpet Herald forum was one that got very quiet very fast, because there really weren't that many people on there chatting. And I'm derailing this topic immediately, because I think that all of this stuff is important, and we're, as with everything, I'm noticing that the more I try to explain how I know what I know, where and why I've sort of come to certain conclusions about this stuff, that my original idea of doing 15-minute videos just goes out the window, because there's so much to unpack, and I think it's all worth talking about. In a way, this is just a massive disclaimer where I'm saying that, I'm repeating things that I've read, and I wasn't there at the time, and all of the same. But obviously, what I'm also saying is that the things I'm telling you in these videos are things that have been important in my development as a trumpet player, as a professional trumpet player, using the teachings of Jerome Callett as the foundation to my technique, if you like. always so wordy with these things; it's completely unnecessary. So yeah, this is the thing: is that the Trumpet Herald forum was actually deleted and restarted a bunch of times back in the early days, because there were quite a few Superchops advocates that would go on the Trumpet Herald forum and discuss the benefits that they were having to their playing as a result of following these teachings. One poster in particular is a guy, I believe his name was Tom Turner, who had been a professional soloist all of his career, and discovered the Superchops stuff by having chats with Lee Adams over the course of one weekend, and completely turned his playing around, completely changed his approach to playing, pretty much overnight, and was just on there saying to people, you really need to look into this. And he recorded an album in which he played on large mouthpieces with his old technique and small, shallow mouthpieces, by which I'm talking about something like, say, a Warburton 8M, for example, so medium cup, but a small internal diameter mouthpiece. And he challenged people to be able to identify which tracks were recorded with which equipment and which embouchure. And, well, I don't think there were ever any responses to that, because people will love to argue, but they won't, when it comes to putting your money where your mouth is, that's a whole other thing, isn't it? Because this is the thing that I've said a lot when discussing this trumpet stuff online, is that all of the people who criticize this system are people who can't do it, people who have not put in the time to, for the most part, even research it, let alone try it for a long period of time, and have the self-reflection to observe any development or change that happens as a result. Anyway, getting really off track now. So the story is that the trumpet players were literally getting death threats over this material, which says so much about the psychology of the student-pupil, pupil-teacher relationship. In that people, and let's not beat around the bush here. People who generally follow the Claude Gordon system were so passionate that their way to play is the only way to play, and that all historical books lead to Gordon, essentially. That they were just aggressive and abusive and issuing death threats to people who would suggest that there's another way to play the trumpet. And the forum was deleted, not just once. It happened a number of times. And so the result was that the Superchops sub forum was password protected, and you needed to contact the admin if you wanted to be part of the conversation. And it's a really sad story, because basically all of that is lost. I don't think that there's anybody out there who has the database archived that we could fire it back up and read through the forum posts. But what does exist is in the archive.org Wayback Machine. You can take a look at an old website called trumpetchops.com, which I think may have been Lee Adams's website. And there are some posts on there with characters such as Lee Adams, Bob O'Neill. Actually, I think maybe those are the only ones that spring to mind. Quite possibly John Lynch, the guy who wrote the New Approach to Altissimo Trumpet Playing book, that... he's the guy who designed the asymmetric mouthpiece. So he may have been on there, but even if he wasn't, he was certainly part of the conversation. Or I should say, his people were talking about his material. So he probably because he emphasizes the use of the bottom lip and its importance quite a lot. Anyway, so yeah, I've got some of my information from reading that stuff, and over the time, especially because of Facebook, I've managed to reach out to some of these people. I've spoken with Lee Adams at length a number of times, and yeah, and just we exchange comments on various things pertaining to this subject. So yeah, that's where all I was saying, I suppose, is that a lot of what I've learned about this stuff has come from forum posts that were written by people who were there at the time, And in many ways, it's what exists on the internet now is the TCE stuff, and later it's it's what's important is that Kyle, I believe his surname is Schmier. I don't want to have butchered that, but I've never spoken to him and don't know his name. I don't really, I can't confirm how to say his name. But Kyle Schmier is the forum moderator on the Trumpet Herald Jerome Khaled section, and sort of the wisdom that he shares is that it's twofold. First of all, he thinks that you can work through Jerome Khaled's material sort of chronologically in the same way that Jerry himself did, and I think that from the perspective of somebody who understands learning and has been through the embouchure change process, I think that it's important to understand that whenever you're practicing an idea for a period of time, you're putting information in your subconscious, you are making parts of your brain more efficient, and you're developing what is commonly referred to as muscle memory, or we could just say habits. And so when you are trying to perform music and your brain is taking the path of least resistance, what you will do is you will draw upon all of your experience to make that happen. And so if you're starting off with trumpet yoga, and in Jerry Khaled's case, teaching that for nearly 20 years, and then doing this Superchops thing for a period, and then going on to do the TCE afterwards, all of these things that I have and will refer to as universal principles, or are building blocks for the TCE system. They have their roots in this older system, and that's why it's important to understand how it all works. But anyway, I think I think the best thing is actually just to leave this as an introduction, and even I'll post this video as being one that is about Trumpet Herald. Because I want to, because if I was to start on about the book now, we're far too far into the video, and I'll be sat here talking for an hour, and I don't want to make videos that long because people, not many people will watch them all the way through. So thanks for watching this. This is the introduction to my take on the Superchops material, and I've not said a single thing about it, so good job. Yes, I will. I'm pretty confident that I'll upload this and then the next video immediately, because it would be silly not to. Thanks for watching.